Hey, welcome to today's lesson. Today we will be coloring this image here using the gradient tool, the fill tool, or our brush tool. Here's an example of something you might create today. So just to start, I want you to go get your brush tool and pick a color, I don't care what. I'm just going to always go for a bluish purple. And I want you to try your best to color this jacket without coloring outside of the lines. Okay, think back to like your elementary coloring days. Try to color without coloring outside the lines. And you can see that that is very difficult to do. Now I could, really zoom in and try as my best, maybe get a brush with a harder edge to try to make this perfect. Now that will take a lot of time, right? So I'm going to Control Z to start over. That's going to take a lot of time. Today I want to show you a quicker and easier way to do this, and this will really set us up for our next activity, so make sure that you take notes, watch this video a couple of times, try a couple different ways, that sort of thing. So, we are going to be using the Magic Wand tool. So W is going to be something that you might want to add to your keyboard shortcut spreadsheet. For you, W probably is going to default to this quick selection tool, so if you press and hold on this wand tool right here and click Magic Wand tool, that will give you this tool. What the Magic Wand tool does is it will, make sure contiguous is selected, it will select all pixels that are the same color that are touching. So for example, if I click here, it's going to select all the white pixels that are touching, and the reason it stops along here is because it meets a black pixel, and so it's not going to select any further. So that's why contiguous is very, very important to have selected. With that selection made, go ahead and create a new layer. Now go out and get my brush tool, press B for my brush tool, and color. And you can see that I can sweep all the way across the page, but is not going to color outside of the lines. And that's a really nice feature because it's only going to color it within those marching ants. That's the only place it's going to color. So that is a really nice tool to know and understand how to use if you want to keep things within a certain area. And let's see how much quicker it is if I wanted to color this in. Okay, so that is one way to color your image. The other way to color your image might be to use the fill tool or the gradient tool. And so we're going to practice with those tools today. Again, each component, I would highly recommend you create a new layer for it. Okay. So this jacket isn't just this one panel. It has more panels around here. So I'm going to press and hold. I get my wand tool back. Make sure that you come over here and select to be on the background layer, not on layer 1, because layer 1, as you can see, is all transparent pixels. So if I go to try to add to my selection, it's going to select the entire image. So let me give you an example of what that might look like. So if I were to be on layer 1 and then press and hold my shift key to add to a selection, you're going to see that it's going to select the entire picture because the layer you're on is all transparent pixels. So I'm going to Control Z to undo that, and I'm going to come back over here and click on my background image. Now, when I press, with my wand tool selected, when I press shift, you'll see that there is an add to or a plus sign that appears by the wand. And if I press Alt, you'll see that there is a subtract from. So we are going to use the Add To feature. So I'm going to press Shift, and I am going to click on the other components of her jacket so that I only have to do this one time. There's this part right down here. Remember that Shift and click to add, and so then I have everything that is her jacket selected. From here, I am going to I can do this one of two ways. I could either do what we've already learned, which is Shift F5 and fill it with that purple-blue color and say, okay, that's one way to do it. Or if I want to add some kind of texture to this in a way, if I wanted to add some texture to this, I can press G to get my gradient, press and hold over here and get this gradient tool. And so you will see that will pull up some options up here at the top for different gradients that I have available to me. And so I do want to go over a few of these options. So if I were to hover over this right here, it's going to tell me foreground to background. And so it's just pulling these two swatches right here. Foreground to transparent, black to white, and a few other of their basic colors, some that I've created along the way. So I'm actually going to do a blue, but I'm also going to come over here and I'm going to grab, I'm going to actually click the eyedropper tool so I can get back in the range. I'm going to kind of grab a light purple, come up here, my foreground to background, click that option so you see that it changed from blue to white to blue to purple. And so I'm just going to come over here and you can see I have a little crosshair, and if I click, drag down, it'll create a gradient at whatever angle I click and drag. So you can do this a couple of times if you want. One thing to note that I just realized I was doing is I'm going to Control Alt Z to get back to blank, is I'm not on layer 1, so that's where I want to be for this jacket. That way if I mess up, I can delete layer 1 only, go back to background, make my selection, and change things accordingly. So be back on here, and you can kind of see over here that it is actually creating a little outline of her jacket. With the gradient tool, there are several different options. So there is the linear option, there's a radial option where it'll kind of radiate out. There is the angle gradient. Sorry, I had to hover over that, and you don't have to remember everything. If you hover over things long enough, it's going to tell you what kind of those gradients are. So you can have some little sharp edges. You've got reflected, so you can kind of see what that might look like. If you wanted to kind of a purple to blue to purple, and then this little kind of star effect as well. I'm going to go with a just linear gradient, and I'm going to drag that out. And so it made that selection within my selection. Okay? The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to Control D to deselect. I'm going to go back to my background layer, and this time maybe I go select the letters of her name and color those. So I'm going to get W to get my magic wand tool, select the first one, and then remember Shift to add to selection, and I'm going to select each one of these letters so that they're all at the same time. Next, I'm going to say New Layer. I am going to get the G to get my gradient. Come up here, and I'm going to do like a fun rainbow. Alright, and I'm just going to click and drag down. So, the shorter your drag, the more concentrated your gradient is. The longer the drag, the more spread out it is. So that's just something to know. And again, it's going to be whatever angle you make it. So that's kind of cool. I'm going to leave that like that. Control D to deselect. Next, I might come in and find something for her eyes, or for the gun, or for the buttons on her jacket. Make sure that I come back to the background layer when I make my selections, because if I came right here with my wand tool and went to try to click on this button, again, it's going to select the whole image, everything that is a transparent pixel. So Control D, come back to the background image always, make my selection, Shift to make multiple selections at once, and then I can quickly color those buttons very easily. Okay? Click, maybe this time instead I don't want to do a gradient, I want to just color them, so I'm going to come over here to my swatches, I want it to be a black button, and Shift F5 to fill those buttons in. Okay? Making sure that maybe I Control Z, New Layer. I know that that's hard. It's hard for me to even remember sometimes to do. So make sure you learn from my mistake and do it correctly for yourself. For this assignment, to finish it out, you need to finish coloring her entirely. I also wouldn't mind if you added a background. So come in here and I can do that really quickly. I can get a new layer, wand, select the background, get a gradient of some sort, add that in there in the background, make sure that I select these two pieces right here as well. So add some sort of background, and this will also reveal a few other things like right here. Like those might probably actually be a little bit, those are part of the background, okay? And do that. Go ahead and add a text with your name at the bottom as well. You may have to highlight and resize a little bit depending on the last text used. Submit both the JPEG and the PSD of your new creation. I don't need my blank image back. And check Google Classroom for the due dates. Have a great day.